if you're not valuing who you are, I always say to people, sometimes you're like a buoy in the water, in the ocean. Whichever way the current's going, that's the way you're going to go, which means you're susceptible to everything that's around you.
That's right.
Whereas if you can be your own anchor, then you can still get knocked around with the waves and all the rest of it, but you've got a place to come back to.
Yes.
And then from that place, you can make your decision.
Insight and awareness, spiritual explorer. Soul intuitive, emotional and spiritual mentor and award-winning author, Lorraine Nylon.
Host Lorraine Nylon, and today we have Josephine Sartor, who is a radio announcer as well as a psychic medium. And she's written a book called More Than Meets the Eye. Going to explain this book to us. Now, she only sells it privately. So if you're interested in a book, you have to go to Positive Intentions on Facebook, which is her site, and inbox her, because she doesn't sell it through Amazon or any of the online. She just does it privately. So thank you, Josephine, for being on the show. I'm very curious to see what your book's about and how did you become a psychic medium?
Well, thanks, Lorraine, first of all, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity in sharing my knowledge, not just with you, but the world, or to all the listeners, okay? So I'm very excited about it. I just want to let you know that how it all started for me was, of course, as a young child growing up, you're 9 or 10-year-old and you think, there must be something more to what I'm actually imagining, these people talking to me, imaginary friends. But you're at a young age where you think it's just normal. But as I got older into my teens, around 14, it became much more clearer to me. And things that I was telling my friends at school that were actually happening. But then again, I doubted myself and I thought maybe they must have thought that I was crazy. Okay, so you're not really aware of whether you're imagining this or whether it is the truth. But however, when things started to happen and the people at school would tell me, my friends, that, how you said about my dad, it did happen. Or my father, he was asked to go to Queensland, or, my grandfather was very ill and he was told to go and visit him. But I just thought maybe that was just normal. And then as I got older, I realized that it wasn't just something normal. It was more of a gift. So I know that's a little bit, some uncomfortable with some people as a gift, but that's how I see it as.
So are you talking like high school, primary school? How old were you when you started to go, hang on, there's something more to this than my imagination? High school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then how did you develop your skill? Did you reach out to people that had the skill as well, or is it something that you sort of had to work out very privately?
Well, I remember I was 16 years old and there was a very famous medium in our local area, in the Wollongong area, because I'm from Wollongong, New South Wales. And my grandmother had just passed away and I had met her for the first time, like 12 months prior to her passing. And I cancelled the appointment because it just shocked me and I thought I didn't want to hear anything bad. I was scared. A year later, I decided to go and visit this medium. I kept getting all these messages from my passing of my grandmother, and I thought maybe this is just, I need to clear it. So I did. I visited this medium. She was very well known in the area, very upfront, no airy-fairy, just told you what she saw, okay? And she was blunt, but a great person and a great medium. When I first walked into her room, into her lounge room, because she did readings from home, she looked at me, through me, and she said to me, you can do what I can do. And I don't say that to everybody. Come in. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't know if I wanted to be there. And I thought, oh yeah, sure, but everyone can. She said, no. And she said, I want to help you develop it because you need to work on yourself first to fully understand what all this is about. Because it's not just doing readings for people or picking up someone. You have to deal with your emotional side first and clear a lot of emotional pathways into this spiritual journey because you're taking on a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, it's really funny. you really are, because, I get this too sometimes. Someone will come back and go, do you remember when you said? And a lot of the time, because, I talk all day, every day, I don't remember exactly what I've said. And then they tell me their interpretation of it. And sometimes it's moments in crisis that they cling to, or it's something that gives them a bit of hope, or whatever it is. And those words become very important to that person. So I always think it's very wise to be careful what you say and make sure that you're clear. So misinterpretations, you're always going to have people that will misinterpret what you're saying, but it's like, so that there's less chance of that occurring, because
Yes.
it is a big responsibility.
Yes. So I started by going to her classes, which was a private session. So I used to catch 2 buses, because in those days you didn't have a car, right? Well, we didn't have a car because we were just a very, my father was a labourer. Mum had 4 kids. We're a very modest family. And I used to catch 2 buses to go and do some mentoring with her. So I thought, she's going to teach me, you talk to this one this way, you talk that way. All she taught me was how to meditate, how to connect with myself, and how to connect with the higher source. That's what she taught me, to that white light. So, and to love and to nurture myself and just trust in spirit. Whatever you're getting, you're getting. So this took me about 20 years to actually master.
Yeah,
So
long apprenticeship.
it's a lot of challenges. It's a lot of devotion. It's a lot of loyalty. And you know what? You've got to be very careful at that time who I was sharing this experience with, which I only had one friend who was very spiritual, and I used to share these experiences with her, because mediumship, or talking to the dead, so to speak, that people really, they thought you were crazy, because it was very hush hush. 40 years ago, it was hush hush. And people thought if you were going to someone like a medium, right, they regarded it as a fortune teller or witchcraft or dealing with the devil. So I had to be very, very careful, which in the opposite way, I wasn't doing any of those things, and neither was this woman. She was just sending out messages of love, helping people through their grief. And that's what a medium is supposed to do, is deliver the messages from our loved ones in the spirit world to bring them comfort and help them with their grieving process, or just to help them, accept that they are there for us, that, they give us messages. All these things are important because they bring comfort, and that is what a medium is supposed to do.
Right. And can you tell us what it's like for you when you're doing do you call it a reading or a session? I'm not sure what you call it.
Well, I call it a reading. Okay.
Reading. Okay.
So yes.
Yeah. So what's it like for you? What are you experiencing?
Okay. So of course I was very nervous when I did my first reading, but prior to that, I took off and went to live in England. And I spent 2.5 years in England. And the lady that I actually rented a room from, she believed in all this. But I never actually told her that I was, had all these feelings, this seeing, all these senses. But what I did see was,
Hang on. So how old were you when you went to England?
21.
21. Okay.
21. And on my own, I travelled the world, and that was a big thing. But my mother had told me I had to travel. She told me you have to go out there and experience the big, wild, wild world. And I thought, well, that's coming from my mother. And in those days, no woman travelled on her own. So you're talking 40 years ago, it was a big thing. And I managed to find myself in London. Something told me to go to London, and I was going to have a month in London. I ended up staying 2.5 years. So I regard it as my second home, and I love it. And this lady that I actually lived with, she was very spiritual, okay? And she took me to a spiritual church. Now, I was just in the audience, and it was a wonderful experience. There were these mediums. They were all picking up on people that had passed over. You put like a piece of your jewelry in there or a flower. And I was putting my hand up, but the reason I knew the answers, because I knew who was coming into the room. So I really had to be careful because I was interfering with them. So as much as I wanted to say, I know who that person is, I kept it all in. So I knew then that there was something that I had. and I had to work on it. So when I came back to Australia, I kept on. I went back, did more mentoring. I did all the spiritual meditation stuff, practicing on friends of friends, because most of my friends, I knew that they had relatives that had passed away. So I'd bring people that I didn't know, and we used to have a little circle, and I would start telling them different things to the strangers, and it was right. So I was picking up on people around them, and some had passed away way before they were born, but they were coming to me, and they didn't understand at the time. But when they went back and told their parents, it was their parents that had come through. So for me, when you asked me about doing a reading, the first one I did, I was very, very nervous. And when the person left, I thought, oh my God, I hope I got it right. Did I say the right thing? Maybe I shouldn't have said that. And I was very, very nervous. I thought maybe she might come back and tell me off. But it just, from that, another one came in, another one came in, and then a lot of men started coming, a lot of guys. And guys don't normally have readings. And I got more confident. There were a few mistakes that I did make along the way, and I learnt from those mistakes. And you just grow. The more that you do it, the more confident you become, the more aware, the more energy I picked up on people that walked in, the more that I attuned myself to the telephone. So when somebody rings me up for an appointment, Lorraine, I tune into that person's voice.
Yeah.
And I might say to them, I'm sorry, you're not ready for a reading. And they beg me, please, no, you don't need one. Please hang on for 12 months. And they do, because it's going to be a waste of time.
Right.
Yes.
Is that because their loved ones just crossed over, or is that it just where they are emotionally?
Both.
Okay.
Sometimes if someone crosses over, these people are crying, okay, and they want to connect with them. And I say, you've got to stop it, because you're not ready. You're not ready. You're too emotional, and I may not get anything through because their energy is very, very down, okay? And then sometimes it's just that their energy, they're not ready for this. They're humming and hawing. You can't have that. You've got to come with an open mind when you're coming for a reading. Sometimes you may be happy. Sometimes you may not be happy. But that is what I'm picking up on the day.
Yeah, right. And say if you have someone come in one day and they come in the next day, I know they don't do that, but do you get the same people come through, or is it, you know what I mean? Like, does it depend on the day who's going to come through, or does it depend on where that person is emotionally?
Okay. Yes, so that's right. So it depends. So when I meditate and before somebody comes in, I say, just please help me, who's coming in for Pat, let's say. Somebody may not come through because they don't want to come through, because Pat's not ready to hear. Okay, so there could have been a disruption in the family and Pat doesn't want to hear what her father had to say. Yeah. Okay, or Pat may not have got on with her father, or Pat's not ready, or they may not be ready, or they may not believe in this. Okay, so I'm just saying it just depends on the day. And then they might say, I want my cards read. And when they come on the day, I don't do their cards because I feel they don't need the cards. So they may not just need the messages from their loved ones in the spirit world.
So you're basically trusting what you're reading on the day about
Yes.
what they need, what they don't need. And
Yes.
when you say they might not believe in this, are you talking about the person that's coming for a session? Sometimes they're coming for a reading. Sometimes
Yes.
they're coming and then they're not really believing it. So
okay. So I get a lot of skeptics, and that's quite healthy, because that's good, because not everyone can believe in what you do, and I understand that. And I'm not out to prove anything to anybody. That's the last thing. But I tell them, come with an open mind. However, a lot of the men are skeptics. And I had this one guy who was trying to test me out. I almost slapped him because he got on my nerves. I nearly slapped him. Like, if I had the wooden spoon, I would have whacked him over the head. But anyway, yeah, I know.
You're showing your age once you mention wooden spoon.
Wooden spoon. I used to carry a wooden spoon. She'd sit down and you wouldn't say anything. I'd sit at the dinner table and eat. No talking. Yes. So anyway, and he said, well, I'm not going to tell you anything. Look into my eyes. You're going to look into my eyes. And I told him, right. I was very, very patient. And I said to him, why did you come? If you think that I'm going to play your game, I'm not going to prove anything to you, because I believe in myself. Well, then he did. He stood back, he just looked at me, and then he apologized. Once he was relaxed, I started tuning in even more.
Yeah, yeah,
And then he actually believed me.
yeah.
Yes.
I think for any of this kind of stuff that you, as the client, you have to come with an open mind, but you have to then acknowledge when something is, there's no way that somebody knows that, because there's always anything that's authentic, there'll be something there that only you know, or there is no possible way you could have put the jigsaw together, and there's always something that.
Exactly. And you know
Yeah.
what? I just, this is another thing too. Now, people give me all I ask is for the name and they give me their phone number. And I had one lady and she was going through typing her name into Facebook. Now, I don't go into Facebook and check everybody out because I don't do that. Okay? People think, how did you know that? And I say, well, it's what I do. Okay, so they went through, she's checking through Facebook. I don't go Facebook. I don't do Instagram. Okay, even though I have a Facebook page, I don't do that because I'm not going to lie to myself.
So when you say this is what I do, can we explain to the listeners, how does it work for you? You know, what's the nitty-gritty of it? What are you picking up? How are you picking it up? And just give people a bit of insight in what it's actually like for you.
Okay, so when I meditate, I get download a lot of information. Okay, and then when a person comes for a reading through the phone, I'm starting to pick up on things. And then I start thinking about that person on the day of their appointment. And then when they walk in, I think, oh, that's her uncle has just walked in. Okay, and he's been dead for 35 years. And they walk in and I say, excuse me, but did you have an uncle that passed away? Because there's a man that's here. He's on your father's side and he's coming with you. And they said, yes. Some say yes, some say no. I've got to think about it because they're overwhelmed. Then they sit down and I start telling them about what's happening around them and what I'm seeing, sort of an outcome or a guideline to where they're heading now, what's happening around them, okay? Whether it's a problem with children, whether it's problem with moving or a job or whatever, a relationship, whatever. And then I start seeing like a camera roll. And I start seeing all these little things and I start seeing these symbols. It's different. It could be something that they're telling me when I'm connecting with the spirit world and I'm doing a reading, and I ask them for evidence. So like one lady said, she'd lost her daughter. And I said, your daughter, she liked silver jewelry and she used to make silver jewelry. And she said, yes. I said, your daughter was very good with her hands and she was very good. And I said, she made jewelry and she was fanatical about silver jewelry. And she mentioned a leprechaun. And she said, that's really funny you say that. Because when we went to Ireland, because we're Irish, okay, ancestry, she wanted a silver leprechaun and she bought one. And I've still got it. Now, it's not as if she was wearing it. It's what I saw. It's what her passed over daughter in spirit had told me.
So you're seeing little snapshots of
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm hearing things like a song, a name. A lot of names come through. Sometimes they don't come through. It depends how much the person wants to talk to me. Okay.
Right.
How
Yeah.
much telepathically they want to talk to me. They may have told me, look, I used to own an Austin Morris, it was white, there was an accident, it was passed on. It's different things. They may have been a cook. They may have been a big smoker because I could smell smoke around them. This could have been also a mother that liked, Chanel perfume. Or she did not like perfume. She's telling me she doesn't like perfume. And then it could be about children that have passed over, and something about a favourite doll or a doll that was made by their nan. So these are all different. So I see, I smell, I feel. Sometimes I feel a lot of emotion, okay? So I feel that they were allergic to a certain food. So I'm getting pain in my stomach. It doesn't mean they might have died of cancer. I don't know. But it's just all these different symbols that I'm getting or feelings that I'm feeling, hearing, smelling, tasting, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So this is all the evidence that I ask for, because anyone can say your grandmother's come through and she sends you love. Okay.
Yeah.
That to me, okay, your grandmother might come through, but I always ask for something that's very specific that
Yes.
they did that can relate to the person.
Yes. I can remember going to one, and when I was, I don't know, I was probably about 18, and she started patting a dog, like a pretend dog in the air. And then she said to me, "Did you have a dog?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I thought you could ask just about everybody if they had a dog. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes,
So, but if she'd said, details about the dog, because, our family dog was like a family member, it would have been different. And then there was a few other things, like she started playing the piano, and she said, "Did you used to do music?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." But I was like, "Well, back in my day, most kids played something, for a little bit,
yes,
you went."
yes,
So I was like, "Yeah." So I walked out of that one going, "That woman just asked me questions and I answered them. That's what happened." So,
yes.
there's a lot of people out there that are, a bit dodgy.
Yeah, well, before I actually get someone to book a reading, I ask them why they're coming.
That's a good question. Well, I like that what you said, you're asking even the spirit to give me evidence. You're not just you're
No,
saying,
no, I
"Right,
want.
yeah,
That's right. I
yeah,
think that's very important. I
I
mean,
do too."
yeah, and I mean, it's not just about the message, because the message is important too, because it's not about, oh, I'm wishing you love. I all wish you love.
Yeah.
But it's about what's the message that you want that person to know? Is there something happening and you're trying to help her with that message? So I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
It was a gentleman that came and I said, look, your brother in spirit is telling me that your daughter has got a bit of trouble coming up and she needs to be careful. And it's to do around her work. And he said, well, there is trouble at work. I said, it's just telling you that she's going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. You need to just warn her. Okay? And yes, there was a robbery
Right.
and there was no cameras. And there was her, another lady that was left there.
Right.
So, of course, it wasn't her, but the other lady was trying to blame her, saying that, she saw her do something which wasn't true, because there was no fingerprints where it actually happened. It wasn't her fingerprints. So that was like a warning.
Okay.
So
Get
he
ready.
could relate that after he could relate to it.
Right. So in your opinion, are events destined to happen? Like if the brother's coming in pre-warning,
Yeah,
pre-warning.
his brother, that's right, yes.
Yeah. So is this, is it just these are our fates, or how do you explain that to people?
Okay, look, when you come for a reading with any reader, okay, this is what my experiences that I've experienced is that you can pre-warn people. Some things are just meant to happen. Some things you can think about and turn them, change them if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes people just don't want to listen to you. Okay. And that's with anything. So I'm delivering the message. And his daughter could have said, look, she's crap. Dad, stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, what would she know? Yeah, sure. She's a lovely lady that I'll work with. Okay. But there was an incident. All I was doing was warning her. So whether it was meant to happen, it was meant to happen. Our lives are destined for us. Can you change your destiny? Yes, you can. But it's up to you.
Right. From the decisions we make.
The decisions you make. Some people are all on a journey. We're all given this gift of life. Some people don't want to change. They stay on the same life path, and you can tell someone over and over and over again, and it doesn't matter how many times they come for a reading, they come back and I've got to hear it over and over again, to the point where I tell them, oh my God, you don't need me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So a medium can help to a certain extent. And then when there are some situations that are way beyond my control and my help, I say you need to see someone professional. So if you are sick or there is an illness, you need to see a doctor. Okay. If you have a mental illness, go and see a psychiatrist. Okay. Or someone that can help you with that. We can only give you help to a certain extent.
Yeah, you're just providing information.
That's all. That's
Yeah.
all. I leave it to the big people because they are the big professional people, and they've done years of study and research. This is just something that I do, that I just try and help with, to guide it to that person in the right direction.
So what motivated you to write your book? Like, what is it that is in your book that you want people to know?
Okay, so I wrote 2 books. The first one was 8 years ago. It was called I Believe in You. It's the story about my journey. Okay, so it's quite an emotional book. And then I decided to write another one 4 years later. I thought, you know what, I need to write more. I need to write more about the nitty-gritty, about the experiences, the senses, about everything that someone can relate to in this book. So it took me 4 years to write my second book, which is called More Than Meets the Eye. And the first chapter I start about is about New York. And I talk about how this lady in New York, she's a medium, and we became friends, and we connected like you and I connected today. And she rang me this was 12 months later, and she called me. It was one afternoon, and she said, I need your help. And I said, what's wrong, Katie? And she said, there's a missing girl. We're trying to find her. Can you help? And anything's possible. It's just for the family. I want to try and help the family. So I said, not a problem. Now, when I said that, something said to me, hang on, you've never done this before. What if you're wrong? And I thought, well, what if I'm wrong? So I was humming and hawing, and I said to Katie, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. She goes, what do you mean? Whatever you get, you get. And I said, I'm scared. In case I get it wrong, I don't want to give false hope. What if it's negative? She said, look, let's both work on it and see what happens. She sent me a picture through of this girl. My husband was going to watch the soccer. I went down and meditated. And then I started writing things down. It took me about 3 days to work it out as best as I could. And then she contacted me again. And I sent her the information. She said it's exactly what she had thought and got. Now, the girl was murdered. Yes, it was very sad. She was only 16. Very, very sad, and where she was found. So that happened. So Katie was going to live in California.
So hang on, I'm just going to go back a step. So what information did you give that helped?
Okay, so Katie had asked me where the girl was, if she was still alive, who was involved. All right. Was she near home? Where was she when she was murdered? Was she taken from somewhere and then her body dumped? Blah, 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 blah. And I said to her, I feel there were 2 guys involved. I feel they're related. I feel they're at a nightclub where she shouldn't be. I feel this girl's been drugged. And I feel she's been strangling. I can actually hear her trying to fight them off. I can hear her screams. And then I heard nothing. And that really shook me. And then comes to find out that it was 2 brothers that had murdered her. They strangled her and they had dumped her body near water, which was found by a dog. And I said, there's this dog around this body, but I wasn't sure. And I said, look, this is what I'm saying to you, Katie. This is what I'm picking up. And eventually it was.
Right.
Yeah. So that was it was a very harrowing experience for me. It was something that took me a while to get over, because I just felt for the family and I felt for this poor girl, and I felt her struggle to fight these guys off, but she had no chance.
Yeah, actually, and that's a big thing in itself, that even though it's not your experience, you're feeling exactly what that young girl was feeling at that time. So that would take a while to get over.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the feeling was very crucial. It had a lot of emotional impact on my body.
Yeah.
And my mind. So I was feeling that, and I thought, this poor girl, what she went through. So I had to just veg out for a little while before I got involved with anybody else. Had a rest from readings. I thought, do I really want to keep doing this?
Yeah, right.
But I did, yes, because many times I've thought, do I really want to keep doing this? But I do love what I do.
Yeah. I suppose you never know what's walking in your door. You know, what you're
That's you
going to
never.
feel, what you're going to experience
Well,
with that
sometimes
person.
they're bloody good-looking men, that come through that. I
Wasn't
mean,
wasn't where I was thinking, but yes.
I know, I'm thinking that. I think, God, they're bloody good-looking, especially some of these young ones. I say, God, you're a good-looking young man. And they start laughing. And I've got to tell you a funny story because I do like a sense of humour. I was hanging out the washing one morning and the phone went and I'm rushing in. And I'm taking a breath and it was a gentleman and he goes, oh, hi, my name's Clint. It wasn't his name, but I said, oh, yeah. And he goes, are you okay? I said, listen, you didn't have to rush. I said, you're the only man I'd rush for, dear. You're the only man that I'd rush for. And he started to laugh. And then, of course, there was another guy that came in and he was tall, looked like a real Aussie surfer, blue eyes. Oh, he was lovely tanned. And he came in and he looked at me and I'm only this 5'0" girl. And he said to me, you're not what I expected. And I said, well, what were you expecting? A pole dancer, for Christ's sake, And he said, oh, no. He goes, but you're just not what I expected. I said, people get this envision of a medium that's supposed to have this witchy look. And, with the big earrings, with the long, dark fingernails. It's not, okay?
No.
It's just an image that people put into their minds.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Actually, it's what I was thinking was that if you're living all these people's emotions, like say, I don't know how many clients you have a day, but say you have 3 clients today,
Yes.
and your body would be living 3 different people's emotions.
Yes. And
Yeah,
that's why it's very important that I do take time out for myself. A lot of the time I like being alone. Like I don't really want to communicate or socialize with people. Okay.
right.
It's very, very hard. Like I'll go and have a sauna. I'll go into a magnesium bath on my own, not talk to anybody. I'll sit in nature with my animals, with Romeo, my beautiful rag doll, and sit on, the grass or just listen to the cockatoos or the
Yeah,
kookaburra singing. It's just so nice. But meditation for me is also very, very rewarding and relaxing. And just going for a walk, going for a coffee with people that don't say, oh, can you tell me about this? I'm having a problem. We don't talk about that with my friends. We just talk and laugh.
yeah. You got to have your downtime.
You do.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, very important. So your book starts off with you with that story from New York,
Yes.
and what else have you got in your book?
Okay, so in my book I've got about New York and then my experiences in New York City, doing readings, doing a Mind, Body and Soul conference talk there, which was great. And, the different clienteles that I've had, the different clientele talks about Ground Zero, which is very, very, that was big at that time because 9/11. Okay, so a lot of people that came there were 9/11, victims that had people that had passed over. So that was very, very interesting. I talk about my everyday life. I talk about my everyday readings with people, the people that I've been able to help and the people that I have not been successful with.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to write the truth. Okay, so the unsuccessful stories talk about the people that have come to me and I've seen absolutely nothing for them, or maybe I thought I got it wrong and they keep asking me different questions and it led to something of a disaster.
Oh, okay. So for you, if you get nothing, what does that mean to you? Is it just that you can't work with that person, or that
There's just nothing there for them. Okay, when I say nothing there for them, I'm not picking up on anything, and I pick up on their emotions sometimes. So I had this one particular guy that was depressed, and I told him I couldn't read for him, and he just had his head down all the time. So I gave him a hug, and I said, look, I really feel you need to go home. I called his wife. She came to get him, and I said, your husband needs to see a doctor. Oh, no, he'll be okay. He's always like that. I said, I feel he needs to see a doctor. I can't help him. So, unfortunately, this guy committed suicide. Okay, so that hurt me because he wasn't, maybe he was just having a bad day. but I saw that it was deeper. I felt it was deeper. Okay, not because he had his head down. It's just that I said to him, "Are you okay?" And I thought, no, no. And he goes, "Will I ever be happy? Do you see a job for me?" Because he was working, he wasn't happy in his job. There was that much stuff that he wanted answered, but I didn't have the answers because of
Yeah.
the way he was.
Yeah. Well, you can only give the information you've got. So
That's right. And you may not like the information, okay? So when people ask me, am I going to be happy, Josephine? And I say, well, what's happiness?
yeah,
Am I going
true.
to be rich? I said, well, you can be rich living in a tin shed. Some people are happy. Okay?
Actually, I had a friend explain to me the other day the difference between rich and wealth, which I thought was brilliant. Rich is you're very showy. You can, big house, big car, posh jewelry, all the rest of it. You're showing that you have money. But she was explaining that wealth was that you are living the life that feeds you, that you're having experiences that make you feel content with yourself. And it's got nothing to do with money, but it's like, are you in a position that you can have these experiences that make you feel alive? Are you
Yes,
having these relationships that, and friendships and work partners and all those kind of things that you feel a bond with and that you're supported? That is wealth. And I loved when she explained it. I was like, we get chasing a sense of security out of money, yet it's actually this wealth of experience and wealth of sense of self that
yes,
makes us feel secure.
that's right. And you know what? I always tell people emotional peace is wealth.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes,
Emotional peace as
peace
well.
is wealth, okay? Your
So,
health is wealth.
so I'm going to ask you the big question. What do you think humanity needs to acknowledge and understand for us to evolve?
Look, people will answer that in many different ways, okay? Because you can. To
Yes.
me, okay, we are so caught up in this materialistic world,
Yeah.
okay? I always tell people a simple life is the best life, and we need a balance in life. You need to pay your bills. Yeah, of course, that's just human nature.
Yeah.
But you've got to be happy and appreciate what you have, not
And
what
do
you
you,
want to have, okay? What you have. And then if you need something, you can work towards that goal. But putting pressure on yourself, and what I found through a lot of readings, okay, that I have, and I hear this constantly, I've got to pay my mortgage, I've got to pay this, we need a new car. I say, hey, slow down.
yeah.
Concentrate on one thing,
Yeah.
okay? Buy what you can afford. Start off small, work towards a goal,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
okay?
Yeah.
I just think there's no time for talking. Everybody's texting. You're out at dinner, and all I see is kids with their heads down texting, and they're texting the one next door. They're texting their cousin across the table. To me, there's no quality. You need quality of life and time together.
Yes. Yeah. Engagement where you're actually,
Engagement.
yeah.
There's not much engagement. No one's got time because on a Sunday it used to be a rest day. Unfortunately, now that's finished. Right?
Yes.
No rest
Yeah.
days because people are working shift work and some people do have to work. But there's no quality togetherness anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. No one's got time, not even to pick up the phone and say, hi, how are you feeling? That is also quality time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is and it's very hard sometimes to bring that message across to the younger generation of today.
Well, they've grown up with it. Like
That's right.
we're looking back, we've got something to compare it to, whereas that's what they know. And
That's
then
right.
I see the skills of communication and having an honest conversation with each other is changing because we're not operating from that. What do you think? Oh, da, 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 da. Like a discussion where you can have, you can start with an opinion here, and then by the time you finish the discussion, you might have changed your mind 3 or 4 times because you've got different information coming in, and
Yes.
you're exploring it and you're working out what somebody else is thinking, and then
Yes.
hopefully you're having aha moments or it's reaffirming something to you. But now we're just inundated with whatever message is going to suit us. So
That's right.
we're not really exploring. We're stuck. We're becoming very stuck.
Exactly. And of course, like I told you, listening to a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, and not all of them, but most of them, like you said, that's what they're grown up with. That's all they know.
Mm.
We grew up in a different generation. Of course, you've got to move along with the times, but I just found, and as you get older, you want less.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can't tell somebody that's young. They don't understand.
Mm.
So I never understood because I thought at 18 I knew everything. I'll tell Mother she was old-fashioned. What do you know? You know nothing. I know everything. Okay? It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
When you're 18, I thought I'm 18, I'm an adult, I know everything. Don't tell me you know nothing. What would you know? And she was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Experience does have, for some, not everyone, but for some, wisdom comes along with experience.
Yes.
Yes. I think it's time to play Flip the Book. So would you like to play an intuitive game where I give you 3 books to pick from and we see where we end up?
Okay, so we'll start with your book. Would you like to start with your book? Yes.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So, because Josephine and I talked earlier, so Josephine wants to do the same. We're going to do Josephine and then Josephine wants to do me with her book, which is we've never done before. So I'm very excited about it. Okay, so book 1, 2 or 3?
Well, 3 is my lucky number. I'm going to pick 3.
Okay, so that's what I refer to as the big book, so your Insight and Awareness book. So you have actually now got 1 to 430 pages to pick.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, because 3 is my lucky number, I'm going to pick 33.
33.
Yeah, because big things happen to me at 33.
Okay.
33, and big things happen to people at 33, 32, 33.
Okay,
so what does that read?
5 questions to pick from, because it's actually from a questionnaire.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that could get complicated here, but off you go.
Okay, so I'm going to go with question number 1.
Okay, question 1. What do you know about your desire for control?
Well, I haven't got any control. I haven't got my desire for control. Okay, I need to be very careful. Oh, desire. That's a hard one.
Because we're coming a little bit out of context. What's your understanding of control?
Okay, to me, my understanding of control, I had to learn that throughout life.
Okay, so what did you have to learn?
Because to me, control was my power.
Okay, so you're looking at control as
not losing my temper so quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, to control that. Controlling my emotions, also with my readings, because I couldn't control my emotions. So I've learned control.
Right. So
Okay.
you've learned.
Yes.
So so for you, control in the concept that you're looking at it here is about how to regulate your emotions and how to be honest about what's happening so you can then make decisions about how you want to respond to that.
Yes, yes. So if somebody had lost anyone and they were crying, I would start crying. So I learned how to control that because I lost control then of the reading because I became too much involved in that person's emotion.
Right. So then you couldn't objectively observe it.
That's right. So control was about my thinking and the way that I had to detach myself. Not because I didn't have sympathy. I had to control myself and detach myself from that person's emotion or from the person that's delivering the message from the spirit world, their emotion, because I would just cry and cry and cry. And I would hang on to that emotion even after the reading.
Right. So I've
learned to control.
Well, you learned how not to get enmeshed.
Involved deeply.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my control, and that can be control with anything. I say control, you have to learn to master your own control because not many of us have control.
Yeah, and I look at it at more so, I know it sounds like just terminology, but for me there's a difference when I read the energy of it, is autonomy, where you are holding to your own sense and your own, if you want to say vibration, but the essence of yourself, and you observe what is happening around you.
Yes.
Whereas when you emotionally react and you start projecting your emotions out, because you can't help it, that's what happens to them. And then you entangle with the other person, and we all do this. It's harder to stay in that objectivity. And if you're
That's
looking
right.
for clarity, which is what you're after, if you're going to a medium or a psychic or even a counselor or anything like that,
Yes.
you're after objectivity and you're
Yes.
after clarity. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah. So that would have been part of your 20-year apprenticeship.
That's right. It was the control. Yes, the control.
Yes. Your eyes widened then. Yes, it
Yes.
was.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it is a big thing. It's a big thing to be able to acknowledge that you are having a reaction, and knowing you can't just suppress it. You've got to acknowledge the truth of it, but knowing that it's not appropriate for you to project that onto the other person.
Yes. And like control means a lot of different things for a lot of
Oh, for
people.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people are controlled by others. And this is where you have to learn to let them not control you. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do. That's why I said this was going to get complex, because it is on what concept, on what context as well, that you're taking control in.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So it was open to very much interpretation, because I've wrote a lot about the desire for control from a different aspect of when you have these beliefs and expectations and things that you want, and you're so hell-bent in that's how it should be, then often you detach from reality and you start
Yes.
operating from things have got to work the way I want. Otherwise, I'm going to feel insecure and I don't want to feel that, or I'm not going to get what I want and I'm going to panic about that. So it's actually an emotional response to not having things your way.
That's
And
right. That's right.
yes. So, and we do all have, I haven't found anyone that doesn't register with that desire for control, but it's one of the hardest things to understand because we can justify it a lot.
That's
you
right.
know. So it's working out how to be in the dynamism of life and be honest about what you're interacting with, which is, our control and our judgment and our fears often get in the way of that.
Yes.
And I would presume a lot of people are coming to a medium because their fears or their insecurities or their hurts are so they don't know what to do with them. So they're coming for either hope,
Yes.
guidance, or clarity.
Yes. All
Yeah.
those. All those.
Yeah.
All those
Yeah.
three.
So you do need someone that can regulate their own emotions. Otherwise, otherwise you'd sink into that position where I'll tell you what you think you need because I want to make you feel better and all the rest of it. And that does not help.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And, you've got to come, like I said, with an open mind. And sometimes the reading may not be what you're expecting either. Because
Yeah.
at that time, you might be so down, not just down, but confused
Yes.
about different areas of your life because you want this to happen and that to happen. But it doesn't happen until, and that's a good word, you are in control of your own life. Until you start controlling who you want to be, what you want, none of this is going to happen.
Yeah, and I'd come at that just slightly different. Only is that if you're not valuing yourself, I don't, like for me, I get what you're saying, but it's just a different understanding of
Yes.
control. If you're not valuing who you are, I always say to people, sometimes you're like a buoy in the water, in the ocean. Whichever way the current's going, that's the way you're going to go, which means you're susceptible to everything that's around you.
That's right.
Whereas if you can be your own anchor, then you can still get knocked around with the waves and all the rest of it, but you've got a place to come back to.
Yes.
And then from that place, you can make your decisions.
Yes.
So you come into not selfishness, but autonomy and sovereignty, where you are governing yourself. And in that you've got to be flexible and you've got to negotiate with the world and the people in it and all those things. So it's not about getting what you want. It's about being present in what you're experiencing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, like you mentioned, unless we're emotionally balanced, okay, you're not ready for whatever you're going to, experience, because you're not, because it could lead to something more. So if you're not in the right frame of mind or happy within yourself, like you said, value yourself, you're not ready for anything. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, that's
It's
brilliant.
sad.
Yeah. So can I ask you again, just do one more number, one to 430, just out of curiosity.
Okay, number 11.
11.
Yes, I'm curious now what number 11 is.
I am too. 7 paragraphs to pick from.
Holy good night. Number 7.
Number 7. Okay, so I think this is interesting because this is about your energetic system, but I think this is what you're helping people with.
Okay.
So your soul oppression is the active force of your soul's unconsciousness, so your emotional baggage, which you use to emotionally, energetically, and physically oppress your awareness of your soul truth.
Yes.
So to break that down, you're using your emotional baggage to stop yourself from feeling your actual authenticity,
Yes.
which is what you're saying people should be looking for. Your soul truth is the reality of both your conscious and unconscious energy. So you're a bit of a conduit in between the two.
That's right. And you know what? It's funny because we're talking about emotional stuff. And what I've picked is about emotions. So that paragraph, yes, it's all about your emotional. So I'm just picking this up, okay, intuitively, psychically, clairvoyantly, whatever. I'm picking up that a lot of the listeners that are listening today, wherever they may be, a big hello to them, have got the emotions that are going through their minds now. Okay, we all have emotions, but some more than others. So they'll be thinking about their emotional state right now when they're listening.
Right.
So we might be able to help them.
Well, we hope. Yeah, because we are emotional beings, and our emotions and feelings tell us something.
Yes.
And we've got to be prepared to listen.
That's right. And you know what, Lorraine, another thing that I'd like to also, put in is that all of us are born psychic.
Yes.
Okay. If anyone tells me, I don't really like the word psychic because I feel it's a little bit, fakeish to me.
Right.
That's just me. I'm very uncomfortable with it. I don't know why, because we are all psychic. You're all born with intuition. You're all born with the brain. You're born with the stomach. And this is where we hold a lot of our emotion because the mind and the stomach connect. Okay.
Yeah.
And your gut feeling is always right. And this is what I tell a lot of my clients. Go by your gut feeling. You've got a decision to make. You don't need me. Go by your gut feeling because normally 99.9% it's right.
True. That is true.
It's true.
And that's why we have regret, because we overrode our own instincts. And
that's
then
right.
we always go, oh, I knew that.
Yes.
And then my emotions got in the way.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So can I tell you my book?
Yes. Yeah.
More Than Meets the Eye. Do you like the cover?
I do like the cover. There's an eye on it and a bridge to the eye.
Yeah, the bridge to the eye. That's supposed to be somewhere up in heaven, okay? So pick a number between 1 to 275.
219.
Okay. 219. So what does 219 talk about? So we're talking about, oh God, I just mentioned, I've spoken about this. So I'm talking about the young man who was skeptic and had a lot of emotional stuff.
Okay.
So this is 219 is about that. And it talks about that we meet so many completely different mindset people and how emotionally he was very, very unhappy throughout his life. So this is the chapter that you've picked up.
See, I actually love meeting people with all different types of mindsets.
Because well, this guy was actually he was born a girl,
right?
But he became a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're talking a lot about emotion.
Yeah.
And the chapters that I've picked and the questions, we've talked about emotion, and what you've talked about is emotion.
Yeah.
As well. Okay. So this is what this chapter is about in my book.
Yeah, right.
Emotional.
So what's the first line on the second paragraph?
On the second part, it says, Telepathically, his grandmother wanted to pass on a message to him. She wanted to tell Charlie that she loved him and was very proud of the man that he had become. Her final words to him were, "I love you."
There you go.
So I'm just picking up that if anyone has lost a mother or grandmother, okay, I'm getting that this is a message for someone in the spirit world to the listeners. They love you. Okay?
Well, I took from that, I think what it flagged up for me is that meeting people with different mindsets expands your own awareness.
Yes, yes.
And accepting people's experience, like that person that's transitioned, is a way of accepting the uniqueness of each soul journey.
Yes.
And that part of what we're meant to be experiencing is the love that we have for each other's uniqueness.
Yes, and that's spot on. And it's funny because I mentioned that part of the guy that I had come for a reading that was skeptical, and then you picked out 219. That's amazing.
Yeah, we love that. Well, I want to thank you, Josephine, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I hope, you have a lovely day and all the listeners have a lovely, lovely day and also get something out of this.
Yes.
I'm sure they will. We'll get humour and everything.
I'm sure they will.